Hi, Joe. Joe, do you know if there was any kind of an agenda floating around? I hadn't seen one. Not that I need one, but I know Nancy was asking. Hang on, I can't hear you. I got you. All right.
Jeff Sieber sent one around. Let me see if I can forward it to you.
Okay. Yeah, and I think Nancy could use it as well. I don't know if somehow I think she missed a couple of emails, but she said she can join.
Okay, great.
And Mary said this morning, she's like, yes to Nancy. She's like, you're on the agenda. And Nancy's like, oh, I have an agenda. Like, it's not bad. Are we doing the same MO? We're going to try to record this, Ben, and send it out to folks later?
That wasn't on it, but I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. We did one of these with the GLC last week, and we did get some real interest in people who said they wanted to come but couldn't attend. And so we sent out the link later, and we got some good feedback. People were very appreciative. So I think that's the plan.
Okay. Let's see. Who has to hit the record button? Or
It is recording. I think it's
okay.
Going.
Good. I just sent the email, Amy.
Great. Thanks, Joe. And Nancy, hopefully we got you now, Jaya.
Your mic is off there. Okay. She left.
Okay, I'm just going to grab my notes.
Sure.
Get the bed out of the background.
How are you, Annie?
Me? I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, Nance. Miss you.
It's so sunny today. It was hard for me to find a place in the house where I didn't have a Star Wars character.
Yeah, hard for me to not find a place out in the yard is what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, I wish. I wish. I spent Saturday, I just tried not to go inside at all.
I
Did
literally-
everything I could outside.
Like 12 p.m. to 9:30, I stayed outside on Saturday. It was great.
Wasn't Saturday such a gift? Oh, I needed that.
It was a happy birthday to me.
Oh, that's right, Amy. Happy birthday. I saw
Thank
that
you.
on our portal.
Thank you.
You're a young whippersnapper as far as I'm concerned, but
I don't know about all that, but
so when we can socially distance closer, I'm taking you out for a celebratory.
I will never say no to a good celebration for any.
Just gonna get some water.
Oh, I see Jeff's out in the sunshine. Cheater, cheater.
So is this nice weather today gonna last, or what do we know?
I don't know anything. I don't keep an eye on it when I know I have to be inside anyway.
Right, yes. Well, I don't want to hear bad news, so if I know it's gonna be sunny weather.
As long as there's no more snow, I think we're happy.
I had snow yesterday up in the hills here. I looked out the window. Well, actually, I was working Sunday evening, and I looked out at midnight, and I went, "No, that can't be snow." And it was, yeah. But now it's all.
The quick glance that I'm seeing says that it's supposed to be in the 60s all week, but there might be rain later in the week. But I can take that. That's not so bad.
I know. If we weren't having so many great guest speakers in our last class this week, I would have us all be outside for class, but
Right.
Students are meeting a number of impressive alums, so.
Yeah, it's definitely been one of the silver linings to all of this distancing. Is that it's easier to get, wonderful people to join.
Yeah, they're from all over.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah, does anyone know how Boomer Esiason got drafted for the course that Dean Fitzpatrick and Dean Queenan are running?
I know, that was so cool to see. Do we know who is the contact?
Yeah.
Chris.
Cool.
Colton, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to the town hall with Governor Vilsack. He was such an interesting cabinet member with agriculture and had such an interesting story. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah. And he's our alum.
And he was a graduation speaker who was fabulous.
Like one of the best we've had. Yeah. I think. Well, they're always good, but he was really, and so not about him,
Right. Awesome. I want to say hello to all of our admitted students. I'm seeing quite a few of you popping on. So welcome, welcome. Glad you could join us today. Just in case anybody doesn't know, you're welcome to put your video on. We would love to see you, but certainly not mandatory. We are recording this session for others who aren't able to make it, who might want to watch it at a later time. So it won't be publicly available, but it will be made available to our other admitted students who wanted to chime in. So if you're comfortable having your video on, we'd love to have you. We hope that you'll participate using the chat and or the raise your hand feature, and we'll hope to engage with you throughout the session.
Joe, did you want to?
I think we're waiting until we get the okay from Amy, right?
Right, we're waiting for a couple more people. I think there's 29 students signed up for this, and we might get a couple extras. So bear with us for about one more minute, then we'll kick this off.
Deanna, I'm loving seeing that you're outside.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And a little jealous.
Maybe the next one we'll do an outdoors one.
Yeah, it's, it's so finicky. I feel like it's the camera like looks like she's got some shade over her camera. It's if you don't have, depending on the lighting, it's always so tricky, but it's all good.
I definitely recommend being outside.
Yes, yeah. And isn't it, I'm so happy it's springtime. We can begin to see just, those signs of hope, those signs of change. And it's interesting how even if you go from Rensselaer County in the hills and into Albany, we're still in daffodil and forsythia season, where it's much more advanced, even just a little bit downhill. So, but those flowers and blooms, just, I'm treasuring them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. In front of my house too. I'm looking at it right now as well. Like all the flowers are starting to bloom. There's so many different colors. So it's making you feel that summer is coming, which is good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. I think it's okay if you guys want to go ahead and get started. It's okay. Folks jump in a couple minutes late. That's no worries. I'm sure they'll catch up. But I would love to make sure that everybody has adequate time getting to know you all. So,
Are you gonna start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person soon. But today we're going to give you an overview of our award-winning clinical program, which was recently renamed based on a sort of a innovative approach to our Justice Center, which covers different components. So there's faculty members here that teach in our clinical program, as well as administrators. And I see our Dean Willett has joined us as well. We're hoping to give you an overview of some of the impact that we're having in our community and how you could be involved in that, and answer any questions that you might have. Today, both Professor Mary Lynch and I are sort of going to be serving as co-hosts to guide us through this discussion. Feel free to ask any questions on the chat box at any time. So what is our Clinic and Justice Center? Perspectives from different people, but in essence, it's a place where you can learn about the law and how to apply the law towards justice ends. And that can come in different forms. It could come in direct representation of clients that are in great need, that are underserved by our local community. It could come in the form of legislative advocacy or writing letters, op-ed pieces. It could come in the form of working in local government agencies as officers of the court, where you're representing the public and advancing the interest of justice. It could come both through our in-house clinical program, where we actually have a in-house law firm at the law school where students are running it under close faculty supervision, or outside placements outside of our immediate law school building. So we're going to talk about all that, and we're going to also talk about other public interest opportunities that you could get involved in as students here at the law school. So that's sort of my overview of the Justice Center. I don't know, Professor Lynch, you want to jump in and add to that before we talk about the different components?
Sure. So the only other thing I think, if you want to think of it as part of your educational curriculum, is similar a bit to the medical model of, there was an old show called Scrubs, or there were other parts where you got to have to engage in the role of your profession. You're going to act in the role of a lawyer, either in our law clinic, where we have this fabulous center that operates like a law firm, or donning the robe of a lawyer, donning the professionalism of a lawyer under, in many times, in many areas, what is called the limited supervised practice of law. In several of our in-house clinics, hybrids, and placements, you actually get sworn in by the court while you're in law school to serve in this function. So you can think of it almost as a laboratory of your professional learning. And it's through the Justice Center you can do that, either for credit, or at the end we'll talk about as pro bono or as an extracurricular activity. Should we move into the defining the different areas of the Justice Center, Joe?
Sure. Let's first talk about some of our in-house programs, and I know we have some of our faculty here. We could talk about them individually, then move on to our field placements and some of our other pro bono opportunities. Maybe I'll kick it off and tell you a little bit about our health law clinic. I direct our health law clinic and also teach a client counseling and interviewing course here at the law school. When I think about health law and work with my students to understand it, I think both in traditional perspectives of allowing access to healthcare. We represent clients with chronic illness and obtaining access through insurance disputes to obtain home health care services, to obtain off-label use of medications for cancer survivors, for example, and also involved in other access issues. But I also think of it more broadly with my students about different ways to prevent legal problems that are designed for a specific population. And our population typically are individuals living with cancer or cancer survivors, individuals living with HIV or AIDS, or living with other chronic progressive illnesses. How do we work with them to prevent future problems down the road? We can set up emergency documents such as healthcare proxies, wills, powers of attorneys, last wills. All those are very intense, individualized discussions. So students are learning those counseling and interviewing skills and seeing an end product and a document that can help avoid problems down the road. But the third area, I think, is what sets us apart in our forward-thinking approach to health law. We look at what are the other factors that are contributing to the outcomes of our clients' well-being. To what extent is poverty and income stability a factor? To what extent is stable housing a factor? To what extent is family stability, integrity a factor? So health law overlaps a lot of other areas of law, such as family law, estate planning, poverty law, and students are directly involved in representing individual clients to help in those problems. It could be hearings, it could be in court, or it could be in negotiated settlements with social services agencies. The goal is that students are not only learning skills, but learning how to analyze problems and learning judgment, decision-making skills that are going to help them no matter what areas they practice in. So that's a quick overview of our health law clinic. And maybe we can go around and talk about some of our other in-house clinics now. See, Professor Jaya Connors is there, who directs our family violence litigation clinic. Professor Connors, you want to talk about your program?
Sure. Good afternoon, all of you, and welcome. I'll talk about the FVLC, or the Family Violence Litigation Clinic, which is what I direct. The Family Violence Clinic is a clinic where students get to make a real concrete difference for the better in the lives of the clients we represent. Our clients are compelling, many are vulnerable, they're survivors of intimate partner or domestic violence. Our clients are low-income adults. Many of our clients come from marginalized, underserved communities. Our clients are children living in domestic violence homes. They're individuals who are looking for safety and security. Students in this clinic address these issues by helping survivors obtain orders to stop the violence. They help survivors in custody visitation cases and child support matters. In the past, students have filed appeals. They've challenged county officials when the county officials tried to say our client has neglected or abused a child because they live in a home where there is domestic violence. As you represent the clients, the students in the clinic also learn trauma-informed, client-sensitive interviewing skills. They learn how to draft legal correspondence, pleadings, and motions. You learn how to engage in oral advocacy before the court. You learn about what due process of law really means. You learn about the rules of evidence. A lot of the abstract learning becomes concrete through our clinical programs. And even during this COVID period, students are still meeting with both adult and child clients by Zoom or other remote access because the needs of these clients, as you know, don't stop. They're still living in dysfunctional, difficult homes. They're living in homes where there's domestic violence. Home is not the safest place for them, yet they have to stay at home because that is what we have to do at this time. We're having court appearances via Skype. Students are meeting, as I said, clients, and students are working with the community and members of the bar and the bench to better address the needs of clients in a comprehensive way during this difficult time. Think about our clinical programs. They really are impacting our communities. They're making a difference for the better. And that's my clinic in a nutshell.
I think maybe we should go through all the in-house clinics right now. The immigration clinic, we could hear from that, and that's Jelena Gual, who is a fellow with the clinic and can talk to us about that.
Great, thanks, Mary. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm really excited to see, hopefully, most or all of you in the fall this year. My name is Jelena Guo. I'm the staff attorney in the Immigration Law Clinic. I'm here on behalf of Professor Sarah Rogerson, who's our director, and also our administrative assistant, Min Soo. Professor Rogerson is teaching a class currently, and that's why she couldn't be here, even though she really wanted to. So a little bit about our clinic. And about immigration, you probably all are very aware that immigration is a rapidly moving, fast developing area of the law. If you've been watching the news, even in the past 6 months, I would say, you probably can name off the top of your head 6 to 10 different policies related to immigration that have just come out from this administration, either federally or locally where you live. So the field is very intellectually stimulating. There are constantly new complex legal issues that are coming out. It can be challenging because of that, but it's also very rewarding. And it's very much a community of practitioners. So you wouldn't be alone as a student intern in our clinic. You would have myself, Professor Rogerson, and also our wide community of practitioners all across New York State, who we are intimately connected to because of the fast changing nature of immigration law. In our clinic, we've traditionally been focused on individual cases on humanitarian immigration relief. So cases where children who have been abused, neglected, or abandoned by their parents, for example, or cases where an immigrant is a victim of a crime. And there are different forms of humanitarian reliefs that would be available to such individuals. In recent months and maybe a year or two, we've also been shifting to a wider advocacy scope for the immigration law clinic. So we've done a lot of cases that we'll call last resort cases, where we are really focused on complex legal issues on an appeal for an immigrant, usually an immigrant who is in deportation, removal proceedings, or is imminently going to be removed. And this is really the last resort and the last bite at the apple that this individual will have. So really powerful work. In addition, our students are also connected very intimately to the community in the Capital Region. So apart from working with individual clients one-on-one, they also have an opportunity to do advocacy in their own community. How we're doing that is through community presentations to nonprofits or interested groups, sometimes even to legislatures. We've done student op-eds to really have students be experts on a specific issue of immigration and explain that issue and highlight that issue to the broader community. We are also focusing on potentially working on a broader project that is going to be remote, but a broader project to assist with border migrants down in the southern border. So there's definitely a lot of different ways to make a difference, either with an individual client or on a broader scale. And I hope that you keep us in mind, and feel free to let me know at the end if you have any questions.
Thanks, Julina. I see Professor Ted DeBarbieri in the Satellite Community Economic Development Clinic. Professor, do you want to give an overview of some of your work?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks everyone for being here. The Community Economic Development Clinic started in 2016. We're a transactional skills clinic. So we're the only clinic that you know, the other ones that you've been hearing from focus on litigation skills. We focus on transactional legal services to for-profit and nonprofit small businesses. You can see here on our Twitter feed the current students who are in the clinic and our staff attorney, Todd Arena. We have another staff attorney, David Kraft, who's not pictured, and Rosetta Rollins, our administrative assistant too. So the work that we do is everything that doesn't involve going to court. We do commercial leases, negotiate contracts, help businesses start and then operate. We have 3 strategic initiatives. You can see some of our clients highlighted in our fact sheet. This is a restaurant client that signed a lease to start in March of this year and has had, with the pandemic, has been having some issues that we've been working through. But they're starting on Lark Street in Albany, the first African and Caribbean themed restaurant in the area. We focus on 3 strategic areas: community raised capital for small businesses, worker-owned businesses and conversions, and as well as organizing affordable housing developers who are doing real estate related projects in the capital region. We also have a brief advice clinic that provides short-term 30 to 45-minute consults with businesses who are interested in learning more about our services or have a great idea and want to talk to a lawyer for free. So that's something that the clinic organizes. In these times, we've provided commercial lease resources for small businesses primarily. This is a page from our website here. Students in the clinic this semester who are 2nd and 3rd year students, so not something that you do in the 1st year, but in like all clinics in the 2nd and 3rd year, you can take advantage of the opportunities. They created presentations using remote technology for small business entrepreneurs looking to get resources either from government or renegotiate their leases. So glad to be here with everyone, and look forward to questions as we continue to go through describe our program.
So I think that leaves me. And my name is Professor Lynch. I teach and run our domestic violence prosecution hybrid clinic. And I know that that is a mouthful. So let me explain what it means. The other clinics that you've heard about so far are really focused on civil law, on transactional law. We in the Justice Center are very intentional about providing opportunities for a broad range of your professional development so that during the time that you're with us, you can figure out over the course of your 3 years, if you don't already know, which area of law best matches your personal and professional identity. So the Domestic Violence Prosecution Clinic is not only involved with criminal law and the criminal courts, but it also was formed as a response to how to deal with the epidemic of sexual assault and domestic violence and violence against women. And in terms of that, one of the things we know from theory and research is that a coordinated community response is really important. We also know that Albany Law School tends to graduate a high number of folks that go into the criminal justice system as actors, as judges, as prosecutors, as public defenders, that we have a tradition going back to Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who was a Nuremberg prosecutor, of really developing a sense of what justice is in the criminal law system. And believe it or not, I have a landline. That's what's ringing in the background. And so what students do in this clinic is that they have the in-house guidance and support and mentoring, supervision, provision of resources, the practice of simulation of how to deal with victims, how to do plea negotiations, how to appear in court. At the same time, they are also placed out in the community. So this is a bridge clinic between our in-house program and our field placement program, which you're going to hear about next. Students are matched with a special victims prosecutor. They work in what are called domestic violence courts in adjoining counties, throughout counties in our region, throughout the state of New York. They are also placed in integrated courts where survivors of domestic violence can kind of do one-stop shopping of court systems where their family and their criminal matters are heard together. The approach is for students to learn about, critique, and improve the criminal justice system and its response to domestic violence. And students are continuing to work during the pandemic on research, particularly this past year or so. The big bail and criminal justice reforms in New York State have been a big focus of attention, and we're continuing to look at how do you deal with domestic violence and criminal law in the emergency of a pandemic when the sort of most unsafe place for you could be at home. So I look forward to answering any questions. You can email me. The Clinic of Justice Center has a website and a Facebook and a Twitter page that I sometimes post on. And so that's the domestic violence prosecution hybrid. We're now going to take you from in-house clinic, right? The immigration, health law, family violence, community economic development, to my hybrid, and now to our field placement program and the director, Professor Nancy Moorer.
Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to have you here and hope to welcome you next year in the fall. So field placement is where you can pretty much do everything else, that, including what you've heard about, and take it beyond and go outside of the law school proper to gain additional experience. So there's a great advantage of being here in Albany in that we're the state capital, our state leaders are here, the agencies are here, every level of court is here. We have the tri-county area that can connect you with criminal justice, public defender, or prosecution offices, all within a close geographic range. We have centers of public interest practice where students can be placed, and just about anything else you might be looking for. This semester we had a student who was working with the Office of Tibet. We had a student who's with Global Foundries microprocessing chip, and a student with the Center for Internet Security. We've had students doing transactional work through Housing Authority, representing the Albany Land Bank. We've had many students representing clients in crisis, whether it's domestic violence issues, foreclosure and housing, through legal aid, representing clients with disabilities at Disability Rights New York, which is our statewide protection and advocacy office. Pretty much you name it and you can find it in our programs. That again is one of the advantages of being here in Albany, in the state capital, where we are the only law school. We have so many alums in positions who are experienced supervising attorneys who are very eager to work with our students and will in fact be competing for who gets you. So we can guarantee a field placement to any student who wants one. We can't always tell you that you're going to get to work with your first choice, but anyone who's flexible can have a field placement every semester that you're eligible in your second and third, or if you're a part-time student in your third and fourth year as well. We encourage you to do a clinic or field placement or have some experiential learning every single semester. So as Professor Lynch and the others have been talking about, field placement is different in that you are spending the bulk of your time working under experienced attorneys in the field. But you're not just thrown out there on your own. You're going to be, the program and the placement will be overseen by either me or another faculty member who teaches a class and works with you to make sure that you are getting the educational benefit that you should be entitled to as part of an academic program. We can assist you in building your selection of clinics and field placements from the time you're eligible after you complete your first year through till graduation. It's an opportunity for you to really figure out what type of lawyer you want to be, what kind of professional you want to be, to build your professional identity, to test yourself, to try new things, to make mistakes where you have a safety net. And as I said, you're going to be expected to take ownership of your experience, to set your own educational goals, but you're going to be doing that with a lot of support around you from your supervising attorney, from the law school, and from the planning that'll all go together to make that possible. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about this program or others as we continue. Let me see if there may be.
Thanks, Professor Moore. I see our academic dean, Connie Mayer, is with us as well. I'm going to put you on the spot, Dean Mayer. Could you talk for a moment about how our clinical offerings fit into our overall academic program?
Sure, absolutely. I'm sorry I was a little late getting here. I was teaching a class in crim law, so I actually had students who stayed after my Zoom meeting to ask me questions, so it took me longer than I thought. I would love to talk about the clinic. So I'm also the director of the clinic, and it is an incredible program to give you guys just a wealth of opportunities to learn how to practice law before you actually have to get out on your own. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of all the opportunities that we have. You're not eligible to take a clinic until your second year. So your first year, obviously in law school, you would be taking a curriculum that is mostly the basic first year courses that you would take in any school. But then after your first year, you can take clinic every semester, and we encourage you to take as many as you can, because I think it gives you such a wonderful opportunity to apply what you've learned in the classroom to real situations, dealing with real clients. And again, there are a variety of opportunities through our in-house clinic, through the hybrid that Professor Lynch talked about, and then an incredible array of opportunities through our field placement program that Professor Moore talked about. There's almost no area of law, if you have an interest in it, there's no area of law that we can't get you a really meaningful placement in, and give you some really meaningful experience that will translate to a job opportunity at the end of your law school career. So I really, I'm so happy to see so many of you here. And I do really encourage you to circle back with us if you have other questions, and to just keep the clinic at the right on your radar screen, so that we can talk to you about joining us, maybe not next year, but the year after. And and I know you're going to talk about pro bono in a minute, but there are also some great pro bono opportunities that you can take advantage of in your first year if you're interested. So I'll let Professor DiBarbieri talk about that.
And then before pro bono, you can also be a work study in the clinic. And that is something that we have what we call like clinic kind of groupies. And so if you want to get a taste of it as a work study student, you can also do that in your second semester.
So I'll say a word about the pro bono program, and it's lunchtime at home, so we're hearing a little bit of background from the family. But we have a program designed for extracurricular opportunities for students to get involved in service as early as their first year. So the the law school hosts or the pro bono program through the Justice Center produces 2 signature pro bono events. In the fall, we do a Veterans Law Day event, and one of the student leaders of the Law Day, and basically, I'm going a little fast, but so the Law Day invites members of the community, from the veterans, service members, and their families, so broad definition of the community, to come to campus. They meet with volunteer attorneys and law students to discuss a range of legal matters, mostly civil, some criminal. It's sort of a triage opportunity. The student leaders of that program have built out a fellowship program where they can take advantage of resources that are provided to basically develop their skills. And Erica Askew, who's a rising 3rd year, spent her summer in Pensacola, Florida, which is where Top Gun, the movie, took place, and she was involved in Navy JAG through our Summer Veterans Rights Fellowship, which is an opportunity to sort of build on her pro bono work and then get additional skills and experience that hopefully will lead to a post-graduation job and a career. So we are very intentional about the connection throughout the Justice Center, throughout the courses, the clinics, as well as through extracurricular opportunities to give you the skills that you're going to need to do what you want to do in your career. We have a pro bono page too. Don't want to overwhelm you with links, but we do have a video. If you check out, if you make your way to the Justice Center page and go to pro bono, there's a brief video that Julina, who's on this meeting now, is highlighted in, as well as some other students and one of our board members.
So
I can say a word about our Capstone Pro Bono Scholars program, if that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, so Professor DeBarbieri mentioned that you can begin your pro bono involvement as a 1st year. We also have a what I would describe as an academic pro bono capstone program that students in their last semester of law school can apply for, in which you have an opportunity to take the bar exam while you're still a law student, which is a very unusual and special thing that started in New York just 5 years ago. And after you take the February bar, you are committed to work in public interest for the next 12 weeks for a full semester's worth of credit. So you have an opportunity to take the bar early, get admitted to the bar early, and in exchange, you're devoting a full semester of academic credit to pro bono practice. And students have done thousands of hours to support access to justice in various parts of the state, working with assisting tenants and keeping their homes, preventing foreclosures, doing criminal defense, and alternative sentencing and diversion in criminal law programs, representing people with disabilities, advocating for children who are in facilities, with the Division for Office for Children and Family Services as BUDS people, and a variety of other public service and public interest practices. And it's a real honor to be in that program. I'm proud to say that our current scholars all just heard that they passed the bar, so we're very proud of them, and they will be able to begin their practice sometime this summer when their classmates will be starting the study process. So anyway, that's something to look forward to in your final semester that you can plan toward, and it's a great public service as well as a really great educational opportunity for our students.
So I'm wondering, Joe, should we call on Dean Ouellette before should we open questions? What do you think?
Well, I don't should slip away, because every time I hear Dean Ouellette speak, she inspires me. So
Okay.
please, Dean, welcome.
So, thank you for calling on me. This is something that happens in law school. As students, you'll be called on, And then when you're later out in your career, you get the chance to call on others, and so it happens. Welcome to all of you, prospective students. I'm thrilled to see you here, and even more thrilled that you chose to come to something about the Justice Center and our clinics and our experiential opportunities. It means you're really smart and you're on the right track in thinking about law school, because your experience in the clinics and in your field placements and in Pro Bono Scholars or in any of these incredible opportunities, and we're not even done yet, those experiences are life-changing experiences. They are ones where you make a difference in the lives of real people out in the community. You'll learn how to be a lawyer, whether you end up being, if you do Professor Jay O'Connor's family violence clinic, you may decide this is not the work that you want to do for a career, but it will change how you practice law. It will change who you are as a professional. And it also may be the thing that you say, this is exactly what I want to do for my career, and you get a head start doing it. So the fact that you're here on what, at least in Albany, is a beautiful sunny day, and you're learning more about the opportunities at a law school that you're thinking about, that we very much hope you'll come to, tells me a lot about you. I hope you'll ask questions. You've got a great group of people. You can ask in the chat if you feel shy, or just speak up, but I know they want to hear from you as well. So thanks for giving me the chance to say hello, and thanks for being here to the students.
So we've talked a lot about our program, where we've come from, what we do. I look at your names and I've read many of your files and applications, and it excites me to think of you, of connecting with future clients and us helping you along that path. But I'm also concerned about the present, right? Our mindset right now is, where are we and what can we do right now? So I'd invite you to ask questions. What are you thinking about? What more can we tell you about Albany Law School and our excellent clinical program? We're here for you. We have our administrators here, we have our faculty here, but the most important people here are you. So we'd love to answer any questions that you have.
The first question, thank you, Joel Barron, for starting the questions. Is your program Professor Connors? And I think I don't know which Professor Connors you're asking about, Joel. If you want to unmute, you can also ask the question that way. Is your program similar in function to the court-appointed special advocates CASA program? So I
think it's to me,
Professor Jay Connors. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's to me based on the CASA program. Well, not really, because CASA appointees are non-attorneys that provide the court with a recommendation generally in abuse neglect proceedings. Okay, they're non-lawyers. They are there as kind of friends of the court. In many counties, they're there only in what we call Article 10 cases, or their abuse and neglect cases. In some counties, they're also present when you have complex custody cases where there are also abuse neglect allegations. This clinic, you are lawyers. You are not advocates, you're lawyers. You are attorneys who are practicing law, who are representing these individuals, but with a net. And we are the net for you. We provide the structure and the supervision that you would need. You would work with CASA in some of these cases, but no, you would be the attorney in these cases, not the advocate. Good question.
And if folks don't want to chat, if they just want to raise their hands or unmute and talk, we're a chatty bunch, and we'll just defer if two people do it at one time. So whatever is most, and you don't have to show your face or the fact that you're still in pajamas or any of that if you wanna ask a question. In the clinic, the only stupid question is not asking a question.
I was just wondering, I think this was possibly mentioned before, but so are all of the clinical programs for credit? And also, what would a rough estimate, I guess, be of hours for those programs, do they differ by the program? And what would that be like for students that are building their schedule for that semester?
I'm sure I can. Typically, it depends on how many academic credits you're receiving, and our in-house field placement and hybrid clinics all are for academic credit. Some of our pro bono opportunities aren't for academic credit, but provide great opportunities. So for the credit-bearing programs, typically it's going to be between 4 and 6 credits that you're receiving. So the time per week that you spend would probably be between 12 and 15 hours working on client cases and participating in a classroom component. So it's possible to fit in one clinical experiential opportunity along with 2 or 3 other classes to balance out your schedule. And we're mindful of you love representing your clients and participating in the justice process, but also you have other classes as well. So learning how to balance competing demands is an important part of being a professional. So we work with you on that as well.
And we do, through our incredibly creative academic dean and faculty, there is a wide spectrum of credit opportunities. So some can be as low as like 9.5 hours a week. You can do an entire semester. We have another thing called an independent practice program where you could be placed someplace and you kind of do, you do it the way you would do independent research. We have, and if students have come to us with a situation that doesn't fit within how we currently organize, we've often used that as an opportunity to create a new module, a new kind of program. Because our belief is really that because you're gonna have a specific faculty advisor who's gonna work with you, you're gonna think about structuring your program and sequencing. Do I wanna save up my credits and spend an entire semester in New York City, California, Philadelphia? How do I do that? Do I want to do a field placement first and then an in-house? Do I want to do an in-house first and then a field placement? How do I want to structure this? So that is part of our advisement process, which you can work with our registrar. And this is where I personally, biased, I've been here 30 years, think that, and haven't left or wanted to leave, think that because we're small, we can pivot through our registrar and our faculty and our academic dean to try to accommodate as best we can reasonable requests with respect to balancing courses and credits and those kind of things.
Thank you. This session has also been incredibly helpful, so I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here.
Julina, actually, I had a question about the immigration clinic, and immigration just been in the news essentially for like the past 5 years or so. Could you just maybe share some examples of maybe individual people you or the clinic have worked with in the last, let's say, year to 18 months?
Sure. There's an abundance of examples that I can probably think of. I think, as I mentioned in my short presentation before, a lot of our cases now are trending towards last resort cases. So, for example, in the past 18 months or so, we've assisted an individual who's quite well known in the community on his removal proceedings case. He was suddenly detained and picked up by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, out of nowhere and put into federal immigration detention, which is probably about 4 hours outside of Albany, separated from his family who are here in Albany. And we worked with other counsel. It was a bigger team to secure his release and subsequently to continue his path to lawful status. So in immigration, there's many bits and pieces. Often, the most urgent issue might be to get somebody out of detention. But even with that, the case doesn't end, right? You still have to figure out, does this person have a path to lawful status? Apart from his liberty and being free from detention, is there a type of status that he is eligible for that we can apply for him so that this doesn't happen, so that he can work lawfully and hopefully continue to live with his family lawfully in the United States? And so that's a case that we're still continuing to work on. Immigration has really been, there's been a waterfall of cases to the court system, to the agencies. So a lot of immigration adjudication is somewhat backlogged. It's taking a little bit longer now than it used to, which, one is helpful for clients who maybe are in limbo and maybe don't have the best case or the strongest case, but are still able to remain here with their families while their case is pending. But also, it's a negative because the clients are in limbo and they don't have potentially work status or lawful status or any kind of stability during this time. Our clinic has also been very involved in local immigration issues on a broader scale in our community. So if you're not from the capital region, you might not have known, but in 2018, we had over 300 asylum seekers shipped from the southern border to Albany County Jail, right here in our backyard. And so our clinic and a few other nonprofits created a wide network of volunteers to assist those asylum seekers. And we had student participation in there. We had interpreters, we had paralegals, and it was a very holistic sort of assistance, not just legally, but also, what medical needs might this person need? Are there dietary or religious needs that must be addressed in a detained setting? And of course there are, and language issues too. So those are just some examples of cases that we've worked on that have been pretty high profile and very exciting. And I'm sure we'll continue to work on more of those in the future too.
Then I have another question for you guys, because I think you're all very interesting people. Among the various clinics, how has life kind of changed in this pandemic time? The law doesn't stop just because we can't go to court. So maybe across the board, what have been some examples of how both yourselves and the students especially have been working through this pandemic when we can't go to court? What has been happening recently?
So Ben, I can respond to that. At least I can start the response to that in terms of my clinic and what the students have been doing. Right now, the court is hearing essential matters, along with matters that were before the court, before the pandemic hit and everyone had to socially distance. Survivors of domestic violence who are seeking safety, their issues are considered to be imminent issues. So those matters are being heard. Now, how are they being heard? They're being heard remotely, which means the court sends out a Skype request to the attorneys involved in the case. And so the attorneys in our clinic, it's myself and my students who are on those cases who are appearing in front of those courts with the clients, who can also access Skype on their phones or their computers. If they cannot access Skype on their phones, if they don't have an iPhone, they can call in. They can call in to do that. So those matters are progressing. Courts are issuing protective orders. Now, most recently, in one of our cases, a judge issued a temporary order of protection, which is an order that directs a batterer to, in this case, to stay away from our client who was a child and his parent, to provide temporary child support, all of these different things. And the order is going to last for 4 months. So this judge is taking into consideration this pandemic, what's going on. So the relief we sought was, we thought, okay, at least 3 months now. The courts are saying they're going to provide it for 3 months. Well, this judge is going to provide this relief for 4 months, which is a huge relief for this child of this client our client whose parent is now a single parent, sole source of support for this child. So that temporary child support is also helping. We are meeting clients, the cases that are pending before the court. We still have court appearances on that. We're meeting with our clients via Zoom. So luckily, all of our clients are able to access some kind of platform, whether it's Zoom or Skype, so we are able to discuss these issues with them. For those clients who are children, we have been working with their parents to be able to access our clients via the computer, or via Zoom or Skype, to be able to speak with our kids. And some of these kids are so much more technologically savvy than we ever are. So they find it to be not such a big deal. Whereas, you know, for me in my age, it's like, wow, you know, this is so cool. And they're taking it so matter of fact, and they're so laid back about the whole process. So, you know, we are moving forward. I think our Chief Judge, Janet DeFiore, was amazing in her quick response to this pandemic. And the courts in a very short time went remote. And for me and for the clients we represent in our clinic, we felt that this transition was kind of seamless, really, because none of our clients that we represented, none that we've heard from our community partners, and Professor Lynch was also in on a call with our community partners, they found it to be a seamless process. So in the sense of the domestic violence world, the civil legal domestic violence world, it's been things are progressing as normal, believe it or not.
Criminals, somewhat similarly, I think there's a little, criminal courts could not close for some emergency things, double jeopardy, some other issues. There were certain cases that, the Constitution, Governor Cuomo can't override the U.S. Constitution, I don't think, but then again, I'm not, so, and I think that, that's sort of a piece of it. I think the governor and Judge, an alum, and Judge DeFiore have been working in tandem, which is great. I've had students talking to victims on phones. I do think victims, some survivors who perhaps had not called the police, but others are a little bit more reluctant in the uncertainty to go forward. And I think students have dealt with that. And I think students they're actually doing the same as ADAs are doing, which is because they're all doing everything virtually. So our students are actually operating the same way that their supervisors are.
And I'll just say small businesses are applying for Paycheck Protection Program funds, EIDL, the Economic Disaster Recovery Program. So, the work continues.
And I would say for field placement students, it's been kind of across the board. For some, being remote has actually opened up opportunities for closer contact and supervision with supervisors than they were able to get on site, because everybody, where people are located now, everybody is working remotely. Some were given computers and other access to office files and have been able to sort of continue as the in-house clinic students have under immediate and direct supervision of their experienced attorneys. Others have really built flexibility and adaptability skills, including taking on projects from other offices who still could use law student assistance, whether it's background research or investigation, and be able to apply that, sort of formulating new educational goals for themselves if they were no longer able to work as immediately and directly with their former placement. So it's sort of been across the board, but I think across the board there's been some flexibility and adaptability that's been learned through this process that's been very beneficial for some, both supervisors and students.
Professor Moore, before getting off the phone, there was a question in chat. I asked what areas people were interested in, and someone thinks they might be interested in environmental. So I didn't know if you could talk a little bit about our environment-related placements.
Sure, we have a couple of specifically environmental-related placements with the Department of Environmental Conservation, and they set policy and regulation and enforcement for our environmental laws. We also have students with the Bureau of Hearings and Appeals and Mediation, which is sort of a separate office, physically separated by floors in the same building and also by whole conflict systems, where you would be sort of in a semi-judicial placement working for the chief administrative law judge in deciding cases where somebody is challenging an action of the agency itself. So those are our two primary environmental placements. We have in the past had relationships with the Attorney General's Environmental Protection Bureau, which litigates in that field. And occasionally there still is some involvement with those as well. And again, this is an area that should there be a student interest or an opportunity that arises, our programs and placements are constantly evolving and changing, and we add new ones just about every semester based on sometimes students finding a connection and sometimes our reaching out based on a particular student's interest. Any other areas of interest? Just shout out that I can address with our field placements.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. To answer Professor Lynch's question, I work in estate planning and elder law now, so I'm really interested in the health clinic opportunities. I've been working with a small firm in Syracuse for almost 3 years, so I'd be interested in the field placement opportunities that aren't necessarily in a firm. I know someone I work with, an attorney, she had a placement in surrogates court, so I don't know if there like what other opportunities I could get that weren't necessarily in a firm, just to expand my experiences.
Sure. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple of additional ones. We have had students who've had great experience with our surrogates court. It's a terrific placement, and our the chief clerk there was a former full-time clinic faculty member. They're really just great teachers there. In addition to that, the Attorney General's Charities Bureau does estate planning work. And that's another placement where we've had students for most semesters, and they've had excellent experiences under their experienced attorneys. Some of it's doing litigation, some of it's doing research and writing. Whenever a charity is named in an estate, they kind of come into action. Another sort of related place where it might come up is under the mental hygiene legal services. They do guardianship work. And estate and planning and other kinds of planning issues may be involved there. And then the other sort of disability rights issues that would do special needs planning. It's not exactly the kind of estate planning that typically you would see at the Attorney General's Charities Bureau, but there would be some related skills having to do with the sort of the future planning and financial planning and planning for the special needs of family members. So, and
great, thank you.
But those were just the ones that immediately came to mind where we've had great experience.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Our clients have been very open to Zoom conferences for estate planning matters. If they have access to the internet. We've also had some creative solutions that respect social distancing that still allow us to sign documents for those that don't. For example, meeting somebody on their front porch where documents are handed through a window, and we're counseling them, respecting privacy, but also getting the job done. Joel, I saw your question about will hearings continue remotely in the future? Maybe with success, but we always have to keep in mind due process concerns and the limitations of doing hearings by video. I think some of the networking that I've done, and I know all our faculty have been doing through social media in this time of crisis, has been beneficial. It's been an opportunity that we've seized to contact with other professors and advocates around the country to improve what we're doing. So I think that's something that will continue as we move forward. I think we're being mindful of everyone's time here. If there are no other questions, we'll wrap it up, but please don't hesitate to contact any one of us if you have any questions. And I do look forward to seeing you all in person soon in the fall.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank everybody, thank all of our faculty and staff at the center, and for all of our clinical opportunities and things, and to all of our students. We're easy to find. So the Justice Center, on the website, you can find all of these folks there. But if you're ever unsure, just always come through the admissions office and we'll make sure we get you connected with the right folks.
And congratulations for being admitted to Albany Law School. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, well done.
All right, we hope to talk to everyone again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.